Hello and welcome to Further Together, creating
enriching
relationships,
relationships,
creating
creating
a
a
better
better
future.
future.
Your friends here, Kudzie Priscilla. It is that day of the week, a Thursday night or Thursday evening, where we come to present to you. And mostly we come with a guest, but tonight we are just the two of
Just the two
us.
of us.
Yeah.
It's so wonderful to be live with you again. And it's so wonderful to see you on yet another episode on Further Together. Last week was amazing. We really had a great time here. And thank you so much for the feedback that we've been receiving. We've had a lot of text messages, many people sharing to us that we were speaking to their lives. So thank you so much for the feedback.
Yes, let me also say this that apart from the Facebook Live that we do right here, we also have other programs that are on our Facebook page. You can go there, and one of them, if you are planning to get married, we have the marriage
Pre-marriage,
enrichment
pre-marriage
pre-marriage
course.
course, which is quite important for you. And we also have sessions with couples, mentorship sessions. So if you are in a relationship and you need somebody to talk to, don't hesitate to get into our inbox. We will definitely do something. And this week we are coming with a topic: why mm, is my spouse not
Not
talking?
talking.
And would you kindly help us to share so that others will benefit from this? Good evening, Mr. Mr. Madzigatiri. How are you? It's good to see you, sir. How is South Africa? And if you're just joining us, would you just show us by typing right down here or a thumbs up or something so that we know that you are here and we get engaged with you? Could you kindly share with friends and family so that they also benefit? We know that there are some who are going to watch this as a replay and would want them to take advantage of this.
Yes, guys, sharing is caring. Do share the broadcast with your friends and family. We're talking about why your spouse is not talking. Many times you may get in those seasons where your spouse is not talking, and sometimes you're wondering, what have I done wrong? What is going on? Why are they not talking? I'm trying as much to reach out to them, but they are not responding. And most especially, they are not talking about those things that matters most. So we are here to speak about this. And last week we touched on very crucial points, which many of you were contributing to as well. So we do urge you that tonight, do throw in your points. If you know the reason why you are not talking,
No, why somebody might not be talking, because sometimes
yeah,
it cannot be
yeah.
you, but it could be through experience.
Yes, yes, that can be through experience or personally. If you have a point that you
Yeah.
know that I'm not talking because of this, do throw it in, and we can always bring that on board. So the first thing that we shared
I
last
quickly
week.
just had to jump in because things like this, somebody might be hesitant to type if they're sitting with their spouse, thinking that, oh, my spouse will think this is
No,
why I'm not
don't
talking.
take it
So please
personal.
don't take
Don't
some of the
take it
things, some of the
personal.
contributions personal.
Yes, yes.
Personally.
So we mentioned a failure to make time.
Yes, and the second point, which we also mentioned, was physical and emotional energy,
Energy.
that
Yeah.
somebody might be feeling, you know what, I feel drained.
Yeah. The battery is low.
Then the third point, which you
Mm.
mentioned last week, was differences. That
Differences.
we have
Yeah.
differences. It could be differences in culture, it could be differences
Mhm.
in just me being a male gender and being she being a
Yeah.
female.
Yeah.
We have those differences. It could be differences in upbringing.
Mm.
So those are the three main points that we touched last week, and this week we are taking it up from where we left last week. So we are going to point number 4. Why is my spouse not talking? And we are saying this because we have some people have got just got in touch with us and say, look, you are talking of communication, deep conversation, but my spouse doesn't talk. Why is he? Why is she not talking?
Yep, yep. So the point number 4 that we are moving on to today is that probably your spouse is not talking because they don't like conflict. There are people that avoid pain, so it's called the avoiding pain motive. Yes, I by all means, I try and avoid conflict.
Yeah, like I mentioned last week, I also mentioned one of the books from Mark Gunga, where he categorizes people in countries, and the country where Priscilla comes from, they try by all means necessary to avoid conflict. Why? Because they feel. How do you feel when what does conflict makes you feel?
For me, it feels like the world is crumbling. It literally feels like the world is just like the roof is caving in. So I feel like if I'm getting in that space of talking, I feel like, wow, it's gonna lead to conflict, and before you know it, I try and avoid the conflict, because to me conflict is painful. So I think that is one of the things for me personally.
Yes, so it could be that, it could be some other reasons, but you just have to know that there is a reason that is lying down.
So which may be the avoiding pain. And the fifth point that we want to mention today, which one of our guests last week who was live, one of our Nelson Mazikati mentioned, touched on the point that sometimes maybe your spouse has given up hope.
Mm, you know, when you try, things for a little longer,
Yeah.
and it sounds like they are not working,
Mm.
you will end up giving up. And there's a verse in the Bible which says, hope that tarries wearies the body.
Yeah.
And the very same thing is in relationships, that if you keep on trying to do things and you see that the other half is not pulling enough, you end up giving up. And we thank you. Oh, that's thank you.
Yes.
Sorry for that. I know we have been in an intervention where we went and we were speaking, and the husband was saying, you know what, we have tried this, it's not working. I'm done.
Yeah, I'm done.
Yeah, she's there. I'm not talking to her. I'm not confronting her. Well, why should I talk? Because I've tried many times, but it's not working. So the person have given up hope. Why? Because they at first they were hoping that she will hear me, she will change, things will change, or he will hear me, he will change. But you speaking to somebody says, you know what? Speak to my ear, speak to my hand, my ears are busy. Speak to my hand, my ears are busy. Then you say, I've tried all I can. And the Bible says, after you have done all you can, stand. So they're just standing, they are waiting. They are now in the praying mode to say, you know what? I've given up on this one.
This one is a major one, giving up hope, and it is very dangerous in relationships, because hope is what keeps us going. Hope is what keeps us moving in relationship. And if your spouse gets to that moment where they've given up, then really
the D word, divorce, is kind of knocking at the door.
Yes.
When there is no hope in your spouse, they are no longer hoping that you can change, or you can communicate, or you can transform yourself. Then they are start to saying goodbye to you. They are starting to look otherwise.
Yes.
Because physically you are with them, but mentally, which is the most important thing, you are not with them anymore.
They are slowly starting to shift their focus off of you and onto other things. So giving up a hope is a really dangerous one, and we really call on as many people that if you get to that point where you've given up hope, you need to reach out. You need to reach out to either your mentor, you need to reach out to a counselor that is going to help you out in that situation. And this really happens if repeatedly there is a problem in your relationship and it's like an ongoing thing.
Yep.
So for example, if you're dealing with the infidelity and it becomes an ongoing thing, for some people they just give up hope and they're like, I'm not going to talk about it, because even if I talk to my spouse about it, it's not going to change anything.
That doesn't help anything.
Yes.
Doesn't help anything.
Because sometimes people have spoken many times, your spouse have spoken many times, I'm not okay being cheated on. I'm not okay, if you do this to me. And if that doesn't change, sometimes a spouse can give up hope and just be like, do you know what? I'm not going to talk, because there is no point talking. Either I talk or I don't talk.
Doesn't help anything.
It's not going to change.
Sometimes you hear them saying, one day I'm going to live here.
Yes.
One day I'm going to live here. So what they're doing now, they've given up hope in discussing with you, but they are now gathering courage so that they can flee.
Yes.
So sooner or later, you won't see them anymore.
And talking of fleeing, these are real issues. We've heard spouses say to one another, do you know what? I'm going to leave you, like threatening to leave their spouse. And for some, they do it to gain control. But for some people, they really are communicating that I have given up hope. Like things are not working between us. Things are not changing. So there it is. Some people may not be talking. Your spouse may not be talking because they've given up hope. Yes. And the next point that we're going to mention is sometimes your spouse may not be talking because they want to get back at you. They want to punish.
Go ahead.
like, you know what? I'm just not going to talk to him. Probably I'm upset, and I'm upset. Really, he hurt my feelings. She hurt my feelings. So I'm not going to talk. Why? Because I know if I'm silent, he's gonna get back to you.
So it's a way of inflicting pain in the other person. You know, I'm not talking, and in most cases, the other part knows the reason why she's not speaking to you. I remember one of the days, one gentleman sent me a text message and say, you know what? Now it's almost 2 weeks and we haven't been speaking. She's not communicating. Then we were on the phone and I said to him, don't you think that she's communicating, she's saying something in her silence? I said, no, but she never said anything. And you know, she's now, or he is now, she was making him figure out what's missing and what needs to be done. So he's being pinched silently. Why? Because he is the one who wants things to work. When she wanted things to work, he did not make any efforts. Now he wants things to work, and she's just there saying, you know what? I'm not going to talk. But I know it's painful to you at this moment, but I'm not going to move.
And really, to be honest, that is not the effective way of communication. We understand that silence is communication. You're communicating that things are not well. You know, behavior is communication. But that is not the effective way of communication. So some people may just be like, you know what? I want to get back to you. I want to get back at my spouse. I'm not happy about how they treated me, and so I'm just gonna be silent.
They get me right. I know there are certain scriptures that encourages us to be silent, but they do not forbid us to communicate. They only encourage us to do things in a proper manner. They are encouraging us not to too much, but we have to communicate. You don't have to be that woman who is very quarrelsome. So the Bible doesn't allow you to be quarrelsome, but encourages you to have the one-to-one talk, a dialogue.
Yes, the same way we speak to our God, we also speak to our spouses as well. So this is another area. Your spouse may not be talking because they want to get back at you, but which is not the right thing to do. And another point that we have is that your spouse may not be talking because they are intentionally creating an emotional distance. Intentionally, I want to get as far possible from my spouse, and they know, you know, we've mentioned how communication is critical in a relationship. Communication is critical. And so they know if I stop communicating, then we're going to create this emotional distance, and the more we are distant, the more we are further and further apart, then the more the relationship will crumble.
And from the beginning, we will keep on mentioning this, that where there's no communication, we have to be very careful that divorce is just by the door. Why? Because where there's no communication between the two of us, it doesn't necessarily mean that she is not communicating with other people out there, and I'm not communicating with other people out there. So there is a void between the two of us, but the void is pushing me to the other side, to other people, or pushing her to the other side, to the other person. So we have to be very careful that the one who is intentionally doing that might be intentionally doing that to you, but doesn't mean that he or she is doing it to the other part. A story is of us going for an intervention, and the husband and the wife were not talking. And whilst we're driving, going there, it was us speaking with the wife. The husband didn't know that we were going because we had spoken to the wife. So we called the husband and he said, we are on our way coming to yours. And the husband said, guys, tell you what, do not come because my wife is not talking, so she will not talk to you. It's only when we arrived that the husband was surprised that, come on, my wife is talking. But then we said, you know what, it's just between the two of you. So if she's not here when she goes to work, she's communicating, she's happy with other people. But the moment she just steps by the door, then she wears this new face to say, you know what, we are not in good books, I don't want to talk to you.
And you know what, guys, we said we'll come and touch upon silent treatment on another occasion, you know, discussing the dangers of silent treatment. But this one, you know, intentionally creating emotional distance. So your spouse may not be talking because they want to be as far distant from you as possible. And for some people, when they start having emotional affairs out there, then they are intentionally now trying to create that distance between you.
Yeah.
So I have somebody else that I'm emotionally attached to now. So I would then slowly try and create that emotional distance. So your spouse may not be talking because they are intentionally creating an emotional distance.
The final point.
The final point that we have is fear. And we can just group it together with perception.
Yes. On fear, there are some who have the fear of rejection. And a young couple called us. One of them called us and said, you know what, we have been having there's a tension between the two of us, but I'm afraid that if I confront him, he will just say goodbye. He's a good man, I love him, we love each other and all the stuff, but we have reached a point where we need to discuss this issue. But unfortunately for me, I'm afraid that if I speak, I may lose him. So there is that fear. Then the second type of fear as well is the fear that the other person might reject you.
Yes, fear of rejection. This one occurs as much if somebody has been rejected in the past. For some people, they've been abandoned growing up, they've been rejected by their families, and they have this fear that, you know what, I can be rejected at any point in time. So they may find talking really difficult because they feel like, what if my spouse rejects me? What if my spouse doesn't receive this very well? And you know, for some people, it's the fear of being hurt. If I talk, if I express my feelings, what if my spouse doesn't understand? And then they're probably going to criticize me or they're going to blame me. So I'm afraid. So I would rather just be quiet than to speak.
And some of these things, I know that we have parents who are watching, the guys like Mr. Jim Jefferson, Jim and family, Madzikatir and family. You guys, you got children. And some of these things, they start on childhood. That, you know, is what the person have received as a child makes them to carry on in their adult life. So if somebody have been rejected, or that whenever they were saying things within their family, people used to reject or would just turn down their point, then they will reach a point whereby when you say to them, speak, they'll say, I don't speak, boss. Nobody listens to me. I remember one of the days we had a kid who was saying, what's wrong with me? I'm not good. I always say nonsense. I always say nonsense. And they say, no, you didn't say that. Say, that's true. I always say nonsense. Even my mom says so. So from there is a mentality that has been built in this child that I always say nonsense. So when they want to sit with their spouse, they're afraid that, you know what, I have never said anything sensible. So why should I speak? So as parents as well, once you are talking about our spouses, let's also be careful the way we treat and the way we speak to our children.
And for some people, it's the fear of loss. You don't want to lose your spouse. So I'd rather not share, even if it hurts me. I would rather not speak to my spouse about any, problem going on in marriage. But really, marriage is full of issues, like challenges, like serious and deep stuff, which we need to sit and talk about, which we need to sit and iron out. But if you find that you're married to a spouse that has the fear of loss, they may not talk because they're afraid of losing you.
And there are a number of contributing factors to that. Probably the other spouse is the one who is financially stable, and they are thinking that, oh, I may lose them. And once they are gone, they are also going to go with the finances, and I'll start to struggle. There's somebody who say to us, you know what, I don't have relatives. My relatives are all gone. I'm an orphan. I don't have anybody. My grandma who used to look after me, she died. So even if I think of doing this, then the next thing is she may just push me, and I don't have anywhere to go. So they are not speaking because of the background where they're coming from. So you have to understand all these things. And once you see that probably they are not speaking because they're afraid of this, it's all up to you now to say, you know what, you may be having all this, but let's sit down.
I'm with you.
I'm with you. We may have arguments, but we are not fighting. We just want to find a solution.
And you know what, guys? Sometimes people are just so afraid, and sometimes they cannot even explain what the fear is. Some people just are afraid, and they fear talking, they fear just presenting their feelings. And some people, they just find it difficult to even express themselves. And if you ask them, like, why are you afraid? Tell me what's going on. They find it hard to even explain themselves. So it's all about understanding ourselves and our spouses.
The Bible says when Adam heard God coming in the evening, when God called him, he said, I heard your voice and I was afraid. So it's quite common. So to you, it doesn't make sense. The honest truth is there are certain things that Priscilla says, which to me doesn't make sense. Why are you afraid of confronting somebody have wronged you, or you don't feel comfortable in what they have done? Just go and tell them, you know what I have done, you make me feel this.
It's not easy.
To me, it's as easy as that. But to her, she needs to get into the bathroom, in the shower, rehearse it, get in, sit down on a bed and pray and gather all the courage before she goes to say, you know what, I feel this way about this event. So you have to be also aware that we are wired differently. And in most cases, when we get married, we always like each other because of our differences. So know that your other half is not as eloquent as you are in this area. They may be good in other areas, but in the areas that you are good, it's more likely that they may not be up to the task. So treat them with a lot of treat them with love.
Yes, and I think it's really important what you mentioned, that for some people it really takes a lot of courage. I can speak for myself. It really takes a lot of courage to speak. So if your spouse is like that and they find it difficult, and they have so many fears, and they have so many different perceptions that we've just mentioned about, and it takes them courage to speak, when that person now actually comes to you to speak, do your best to be attentive Give them the attention, listen to them, and don't shoot them in the foot. Because immediately you do that, they'll be like, listen, I've gathered all the courage in the world to speak about this, and then look at the way that is being received. So all these past experiences, sometimes it's not necessarily past experiences in childhood, sometimes it's our past experiences. How well have you responded when I've come up to you with an issue, when I've come up to you with an area that I thought this is a major problem in our marriage? How have you responded? So we are saying all this so that you can try and find your spouse in all this. Could it be that your spouse is not speaking because they're afraid? They fear loss, they fear hurt. So sometimes you think, wow, he wants to get back at me. Sometimes he doesn't want to. It's not that he wants to get back, but he is afraid.
Very true. He's afraid or she is afraid. Those who have been probably to counseling, there's one area that I just want to challenge here, that you go with your spouse either for counseling or for coaching or whatever. It could be therapy, and they unveil certain things that might have happened to them. Then when you are communicating, you use those to judge them or to bash them or against them. It's the worst thing. You are sending them right back into the shell. Probably they were abused when they were a child sexually. So whenever you want to talk to them, say, oh, it's because it's because you're raped. Your mind.
Don't communicate this way. It's not my problem.
It's because of your background. Let's have love. Let's show love to one another. Let's have compassion. That's the word. Yes, towards one another, so that they don't feel that my opening up is being used against me.
If somebody is vulnerable to you, don't abuse that. Don't abuse the fact that your spouse is vulnerable. Once we're having these conversations, sometimes you would now then go and have homework with your spouse. You talk about these issues, but don't use those against your spouse. Don't be the jury, don't be the judge, don't be the jailer of your spouse. We are here to work together as couples.
Yes. Greetings. Who is there? Mujare Kureva, I've just started on you. It's good to see you. Thank you so much for tuning in. Mr. Madzikatire, you are there. You are the man.
Joe, Mikey,
how are you?
Thank you for joining us.
Call me.
And we know Elder Chiwaye and so many other people are watching behind the scenes. If we do not mention your name, it's because we don't see
you
any
on
comments.
The comments.
We may not be able to know, but we are aware that a lot of you are behind the screen and you're watching this.
Jeff and Sharon, it's good to see you. How is South Africa? Thank you so much for tuning in. So we want to say thank you so much for tuning in. For me and my beautiful wife, Priscilla,
we have given you homework.
Oh,
We get the reminder.
I know.
Yes, Karuru, you are there. Thank you for joining. Pamela, it was lovely to speak to you earlier. Thank you for joining. The homework that we have for tonight, as we've just touched upon those areas, those reasons why your spouse may not be talking. If you have not yet watched series 1, we refer you back to last week, Thursday, where we started off. So this was the final session. And this is the homework that we have for tonight, not just for yourselves, but for us as well. So go and have a dialogue with your spouse and ask them, what are the things that make communication difficult between us? Go and ask your spouse, have a sit down and ask them, what are the things that are making communication difficult between us? It may be that you will not see any of the points that we've mentioned there. You may not see a single one. You may see other things there.
I feel like talking, but we are on social media. People will hear our secrets.
Yes.
So
No, do it in secret.
yeah,
Yes.
the
Talk
two of
about
you
those
take
things.
time, sit
Get
down,
real
and
with each
iron
other.
these issues
Yeah,
out. And one thing which I want to encourage you to do: be vulnerable to one another. Be vulnerable to one another. I know that sometimes we carry these secrets for a long time. And what they do is, human beings are spiritual. You can sense that there's something this person is not telling me. Yeah,
and
there's
sometimes
something.
you're like, speak to me, I'm here.
I'm here, and the person is not speaking, and they're saying nothing. I'm all right. But deep within, you can sense, you can see, you can tell with their actions that things are not all right here. So be open, be vulnerable to one another,
and don't be defensive.
Don't be defensive. And if somebody becomes vulnerable, please and please don't use it against them when you're speaking to them.
Yeah, absolutely.
What more shall we say apart from saying thank you so much for giving us your precious possession, which is your time. Time permitting, God willing, we'll meet again next week. If you have any questions, if you have any topics that you would want us to share or invite a guest and discuss, please don't hesitate to send it to us via a DM, a direct message, or a text message on our phone numbers right there. If you are out of the UK, you can also get in touch on WhatsApp. For me and my beautiful wife, we are signing out till we meet again.
Oh,
big brother.
Love you,
Mr.
love you, love you.
Thank you so much for tuning in. God bless you.
Love you all. God bless you. Have a good night.
Bye.